Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 25th of January, now it's 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with the short summary of the situation on Ukrainian Battlefield, really short because I wouldn't go into a detailed analysis of the local scale changes on line of contact. I will just mention that according to Russian Defense Ministry's report on progress of special military operation, yesterday's report, during the previous day, Ukrainian armed forces lost about 900 military personnel all along the front line and few dozen of military equipment, tanks, armored personnel carriers, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery systems, and so on. Russian forces are increasing pressure, of course, all along the front, especially on Kupiansk, Krasny Liman, and Donetsk sectors of the front line. But yet again, no crucial changes for this moment. Russian armed forces are trying to use more or less same line of contact to demilitarize as many units of enemy as possible. Let's continue with some additional news, and TASS news agencies report here that Russian firefighters extinguished fire on oil depot in the Tuapse, Black Sea coast city of Russian Federation in Krasnodar region. And this oil depot, according to a number of reports that I see on military channels, was targeted by Ukrainian drones during the early hours of the morning, and some reservoirs with fuel caught fire. And it seems like for this moment, situation is under full control. No reports about casualties on the ground, and fire, as I said, was extinguished. RIA Novosti's report that France refused to conduct meeting in Security Council of US on Il-76 destruction by Ukrainian air defense systems yesterday. A Russian Il-76 plane that was carrying Ukrainian POWs, as you all know. This plane was targeted over the Belgorod region yesterday by Kiev regime, and as a result of destruction of the plane, there was no survivals on the board. And because France is leading now Security Council, they use their powers not to allow Russian side to discuss this topic in the UN. One more demonstration that UN as an organization is a crap and means nothing in reality, although politicians all around the world still are playing this game if UN is something that has any meaning for the world, when in reality now it's just a tool in hands of Western ruling class. And yesterday France once again demonstrated it quite perfectly. RT is reporting that Zelensky reacted on death of Ukrainian POWs in a plane crash. Yet again, this plane was destroyed by Ukrainian side. And Zelensky called for international probe into all this story. Initially, as I reported yesterday, Ukrainian media, Ukrainian Telegram channels began reporting that Ukraine's air defense systems achieved huge success. They shut down Russian transport plane. But when they realized that there were POWs on this transport plane, they began deleting their articles, their comments, changing their comments. And it took quite a number of hours for Ukrainian officials to make any statement at all. And well, they didn't deny involvement in destruction of this plane, but they are now pushing narrative that there were no POWs on the board of this plane. Some high-ranking officials are saying, and some Telegram channels in the Ukraine, that it was Iranian drone operators on this plane. Some are reporting that it was some missiles. Some are talking about some drones on the board. Total mess, by the way. Total mess. it's hard to comment seriously anymore about anything that comes from this so-called state Ukraine. I don't recognize any state under such a name, but whatever that territory is, man. RT's report here that Ukraine should be designated as a terrorist state, according to senior Russian MP. So let's read several sentences here. Ukraine should be designated as a terrorist state, and the government in Kiev should be branded as a terrorist cell. The head of the Russian State Duma Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, has insisted following the attack on Russian Il-76 military aircraft in the Belgorod region. Earlier on Wednesday, the Russian military transport plane crashed near village of Yablonovo, around 90 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It was carrying 65 Ukrainian POWs for prisoner swap, as well as 6 crew members and 3 people accompanying the POWs. It is believed that there are no survivors on the crash site. According to Kartapolov, Kiev was well aware of who this plane was transporting and accused the Ukrainian forces of shutting down the aircraft using what he claimed were 3 Patriot or Iris-T air defense missiles. He also noted that there was another Il-76 that was carrying another 80 Ukrainian POWs for this POW swap. And this board basically received the order to change flight course and move away from Belgorod region and land in safe place, and that's what happened, and lives were saved, because if that second Il-76 continue its flight, I'm quite sure Kyiv regime will target that plane. Also, quite understandable statement from senior Russian MP. I will just add that maybe it's too late to brand Ukraine as a terrorist state. Maybe this should be done in the first days of special military operation, or even before that, because since 2014, Kyiv regime is killing civilians in Donbass for years and years, isn't it? But it's better to do it later than never. But question is, will Moscow agree on this initiative of Russian MP? I have some doubts about it. RT is reporting here that, head of Russian parliament, head of Russian State Duma also made a statement, and he said that on this topic, by the way, Il-76, and he said that it's a time for the West to realize it is helping Nazis. Well, interesting. Let's read several sentences here. US and German lawmakers must finally realize that by sending weapons to Kiev, they are helping Nazi regime that has stopped to knowingly killing dozens of its own prisoners of war. Russian State Duma chairman Vyacheslav Volodin said on Wednesday. The lawmaker comments came short after the Russian Defense Ministry reported the crash of Il-76 cargo aircraft carrying 65 captured Ukrainian service members, military personnel, as well as several crew and accompanied personnel in Belgorod region. Well, how are you going to comment this? If Vyacheslav Volodin thinks that leadership of Germany, US, or any other NATO member state that sends weapons to Zelensky's regime don't know who they are supporting, and if Volodin thinks Western ruling class have no idea who runs Ukraine on the ground and what role Nazis play there, Nazis, radicals, terrorists, and so on, then maybe he should not be head of Russian parliament. Maybe he should find some other job, because everybody in this world, by the way, not just in the West, but in this world, know perfectly well that Ukraine is a failed Nazi state. And maybe it's time to stop playing these quasi-political games and begin really working. And for example, this individual, Volodin, is head of parliament, and he can initiate in the parliament work on the topic of designating Ukraine as a terrorist state and the leadership of that terrorist state as a terrorist cell. That will be much better than making these crazy statements. As if nobody in this world, especially in the West, knows that they are supporting Nazis. Those Nazis were supported by Western secret services and Western states even before 2014. And that's why those Nazi units during that coup in 2014 was quite organized in their actions, because they did undergone training in the Baltic states, in the Poland, and we all know this. And training was given to them by whom? Secret services of the West, Western states, NATO member states, isn't it? But yet again, man, these politicians, I mean, they are quite something, isn't it? RIA Novosti is reporting that, according to head of Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, Narishkin, Russia will not refuse to continue special military operation until all the goals, declared goals of special military operation will achieve, despite some messages from NATO. And in this particular case, Sergei Narishkin is talking about these constant statements in the West, especially lately, that some war is on the way between Russia and the West. And as you know, on daily basis now, or every other day, high-ranking Western officials are claiming that Russia gonna attack this NATO member state and that NATO member state, and so on. And according to Narishkin, this is done by Western elites to impose pressure on Russia to stop its military operation. I have to disagree with Narishkin. I mean, these statements of Western ruling class has nothing to do with special military operation, really. All they want is to scare their own population in the West, their own fellow citizens, scare so much so that people will stop asking questions, no matter what they're gonna do, no matter how much money they're gonna allocate for a military industrial complex or any other means that they want to. And this scare tactic also allows Western ruling class to impose any decisions on this scared society. And I said, by the way, that I would not be surprised even if we will see calls in the Western states, in the NATO member states, to begin not just preparations for the war, but to begin conscriptions, because almost every single NATO member state experiencing severe shortages of manpower in their militaries. People in the West no longer want to serve in military. They don't want to do this. And that's why they are using scare tactics, not because because they want to influence Russian policies on Ukraine. No, man. So that's why I find it difficult to understand where from Narishkin coming with this statement. I mean, what he's talking about. But he's a high-ranking Russian official, so I decided to share with you this information. I will even translate. To be more precise, I will translate a few sentences here. Let's see how it will go. So the West, declaring Russia's plans to attack NATO, is trying to force Moscow to abandon the goals of the special military operation, but this will not happen. Sergei Narishkin, director of the Foreign Intelligence Service, said in an interview with RIA Novosti. The head of the intelligence service explained such statements as an information war to justify the current hybrid aggression of the West against Russia and desire to intimidate Russia with the prospects of direct armored conflict with NATO. Well, yet again, main goal for Western ruling class is to scare hell out of their own fellow citizens so that they can use taxpayers' money in any ways they want and to impose on societies any decisions that they need, including, most likely, conscriptions. Let's continue. TASS news agencies report here that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called European states and said that support for Kiev regime from EU is not enough and more supposed to be done. And almost a similar statement was made by Finance Minister of Germany yesterday. And well, I will say these representatives of US occupational regime in Germany, like Schulz and rest of them, it seems like they are not realizing that Germany is an occupied country and have no say. And that's why Germany spends much more on this proxy war against Russia than other states, because France, although being under significant influence of Anglo-Saxons, let's say, Washington and London, still maintains some sort of independence. France, at least, are not under occupation. Italy is at least not under direct occupation. Spain, not in the direct occupation. Germany is. And Germany is since the Second World War, like Japan. So maybe Schulz and the rest of these so-called German officials, and in reality representatives of occupational regime, may need some reality check. Do they understand even who they are serving and what the hell is going on in Europe, and what is the status of Germany itself? Because it seems like they really are frustrated that they are spending more and more, while other European states say, you know what, we will think about. Because status of countries are quite different. One thing is to be under occupation, and other is to be under influence. Quite a different stuff. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that US Congressional Committee agreed, or Senate Committee agreed on decision to basically send Russian frozen assets in the US to Ukraine. That's a formulation to send these funds to Ukraine, or to use for helping Kyiv regime. And we are talking about some initiative of US lawmakers that Biden should receive additional powers so that he can unilaterally make decisions or sign papers, I would say, to to stall as many assets that are frozen in the US, as many Russian assets as they wish, and use any way they find it profitable for them. Excuse me. And well, as I said many times before, it's not a question of if, but it's a question of when Western ruling class will begin stealing these Russian frozen assets. And this day, when they will actually make first step, is closing in. And I just remind you that from approximately $300 billion worth of Russian frozen assets, about 100 billion is in US jurisdiction, and about 200 billion in EU's jurisdiction. And all sides are now actively working to come up with justifications of this theft. TASS news agencies report here that, well, since the beginning of escalation between Israel and the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, by the way, which is formally not an area of Israel's military operation, in the West Bank, Israeli security forces detained more than 6,000 Palestinians. Just in the West Bank. Can you imagine the number of detained people in the Gaza Strip? Most likely tens of thousands of people have been detained. RT is reporting that Ansar Allah movement claims clash with the US Navy. This is quite Interesting. At least one of the missiles fired from Yemen on Wednesday afternoon struck a US warship and forced two US-owned commercial vessels to retreat. Spokesman for Houthis has said. The US Central Command claimed that all the incoming missiles have been shot down. However, the Shia group that controls the western part of the Yemen, including the capital Sana'a, has been harassing vessels linked to Israel since late October in support of Palestinians in Gaza. Well, Pentagon denies that any US warship was hit by missile from Ansar Allah movement or Houthi rebels. I don't know what really happened. Hard to tell. But at some point, one of the missiles or one of the drones gonna go through air defense systems of these US warships, US or UK warships, and well, we all know what may happen then. These ships may receive severe damage or may even sink. Who knows? If a Houthi missile or drone will strike in a vulnerable area of the ship, if munition will detonate, for example, or something like that, then ship may sink in a minutes. But yet again, Pentagon denies claims of Houthis that US warship was struck. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti's report here that according to Russian Foreign Ministry, agreement between Russia and Finland on borderline cross-border cooperation is terminated, which is well, sad news really, because seems like relationships between Russia and Finland will stay on its lowest point for many decades, for quite a while now. It may not even recover ever. RT's report, EU media should learn from RT, according to Borrell. That's quite a statement to make, so let's read here. EU's media outlets should take note from RT if they hope to make themselves heard outside of West, the blog's top diplomat Joseph Borrell said on Tuesday. He described the Russian broadcaster as a prime example of successful work in the Arab world in particular. Interesting. RT is banned in the Western states, as we all know, because true is not allowed in the West, and only this independent media exists in the West is on internet. MSM is total BS and propaganda in every Western country, by the way, every single one of them. And it seems like Borrell and I guess other high-ranking officials in the West are not happy that their propaganda is effective only in the West, when the rest of the world well informed, not just because of RT, but because they just want to know really what is going on, and therefore I guess they are not happy that they are being somewhat isolated from the rest of the world. That's what this news is really about. Western world is becoming more and more isolated from the rest of the world. And I guess some groups, at least in the Western elites, blaming this on ineffectiveness of their own propaganda outlets, their own MSM, which is quite effective in the West itself because they have no competition there. No independent media is allowed. If you want to make news agency, for example, in France, try it, try it. I don't think you will succeed. You will be shut down in the very first months if you truly are independent. And the only way you will have to operate in France in French language is to go internet. to go online. And that's what many people do, many journalists. Same goes for United Kingdom, for United States. You know, top journalists, by the way, top journalists for last 2 decades in the world scale, or let's take in the West, top Western journalists for last, let's say, 2 decades. All of them are on internet. All of them are online. None of them are working for MSM. Why? Maybe because they find it extremely difficult to tell the truth. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that Argentinian workers plan mass protests against Milei's shock therapy. I did mention this news yesterday during the live stream on Rumble, also in headlines, and in the second update on Patreon. Let's go through some few sentences here. Argentina's labor union have called for mass strikes on Wednesday to protest the economic reforms introduced by President Javier Milei. Labor unions representing workers in various industries, including transportation, construction, and the public sector, are set to march in Buenos Aires. There will be at least 200,000 marching in Buenos Aires, and I believe the strike will be total. Geraldo Martinez, leader of Argentina's construction workers union, told the Financial Times ahead of the protest. Well, I can wish all the luck to these protesters, by the way. They have every right to protect themselves, to protect their rights. But same time, I mean, maybe it's too late, really. Maybe it's too late because society in Argentina did make the choice, and they choose this clown, Milei, as their president. And, well, I feel sorry for Argentina, but, well, and Argentinians, but they're gonna blame themselves for what is to come. That's it. And I don't think these protests will change anything now. Milei is a legit president of Argentina and has every right to conduct any reforms that he was openly advocating for during the election rallies, during the presidential campaign. So what they were expecting, that he was joking or what? But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that ocean freight rates are skyrocketing, according to a Wall Street Journal. Of course, this is due to this Red Sea crisis, Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden crisis. The average cost of the container has more than doubled globally in the past months, according to an article in the Wall Street Journal published on Sunday. The disruption caused by the continued Houthi attacks on cargo vessels in the Red Sea are sending shockwaves across global supply chain, delaying shipments and the rising transportation costs, the article states. Well, I did spoke about this topic quite a number of time, and well, it's obvious. You don't have to be like top economist to understand that if this crisis in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden, continues for another month or 2 or 3, then not just prices will skyrocket on freight rates, but we will see most likely hike in inflation worldwide, especially in Mediterranean, in Europe, because this route, Mediterranean, Suez Channel, Red Sea, is crucial for, first of all, EU member states. And they may begin feeling pressure on inflation maybe they are already feeling pressure. And maybe prices are already rising in Europe. But it will only increase in upcoming weeks and months if this crisis in the Red Sea continues. It's just logical. I mean, we don't have to be financial experts or something like that to realize this. I mean, it's a simple. So no surprises absolutely in this report of Wall Street Journal. And RT's report, by the way, that Russian coal exports to Southeast Asia surged by nearly 50% according to data in previous year. Let me give you some numbers. So export of Russian coal to countries in the Southeast Asia surged last year after supplies to the EU stopped aimed Western sanctions on Moscow. Vedomosti Business Daily reported on Monday, citing data from energy analytics firm Kepler, Southeast Asia bound deliveries of Russian coal, excluding China, by the way. This is without China, because China is, of course, a major buyer, but excluding China, jumped by 47% in 2023 and reached 13.1 million tons, the outlet said. Countries that ramped up Russian coal imports, including Sri Lanka, which boosted purchases by 4.5 times to 1.6 million tons. Vietnam nearly doubled imports of Russian coal to 3.9 million tons. Malaysia by increased Russian import of Russian coal by 18% to 3.8 million tons. And Indonesia by increased imports of Russian coal by 1.7 times to 3.4 million tons. And I have to share with you this information. Also, deliveries to Myanmar, by the way, increased by 10%, reaching 41,000 tons last year, while Bangladesh bought 48,000 tons of coal from Russia. Data shows so. Myanmar and Bangladesh, they are, buying not really relevant volume of Russian coal in thousands of tons, but when it comes to major regional economies like Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, they are buying Russian coal in millions of tons. They increase quite significantly imports from Russia of this product, and of course China is buying more than all these countries combined, obviously. And this is, by the way, this information is also relevant in my understanding, especially on backdrop of this Western propaganda of these globalists and Western MSM, that renewable energy is coming on its way and blah blah blah, when in reality world was dependent on oil, gas, coal, and is dependent on oil, gas and coal, and will be dependent for at least entire 21st century, if not 22nd also. And I will end, although, by the way, of course, sometime in the future, technologies will further develop, and maybe percentage of renewables increase a little bit, and there will be less and less demand on coal, oil and gas, but this is in the far future. This is not this will not happen in next decade or two, for sure. This is it for now. Quite short update, by the way, and I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share this video with your friends. Help me deal with these algorithms, by the way, to reach wider audience. And if you think this project with several channels and a number of programs is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. Patreon is especially very important to me, of course, and you can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.